Welcome to 2016. It's the big interview, the new one, Gaizka Mendieta. May 1996 was a pretty pivotal moment for me in my career. The first time I worked journalistically in the city of Barcelona. It was the under-21 championships, the semi-finals and final, 4 teams. And it turned out that, good though they were, the Scotland of Tommy Craig as the manager, Christian Daly, Stevie Glass from Aberdeen, Jackie McNamara, we weren't quite good enough for France and Italy sides and Spain sides containing... The guys on show were unbelievable in that mini tournament in Montjuic's Olympic Stadium in Barcelona. For France, there were Vieira, Pires, Makaleli. First sight of any of those for me. For Spain, there was Raul, a young Raul, 18-year-old, the youngest by a distance in his squad. Ivan de la Peña, who stunned everybody with his quality that day. Also a young Fernando Morientes, others who went on to star for Spanish clubs. But maybe it was the eventual winners, Italy, who had seemingly the most star-studded squad. Gigi Buffon, Fabio Cannavaro, Francesco Totti, Panucci, Nesta. Think about that. All coached by Maldini's old man, looking like Iggy Pop even then. The guy who I find it as a total privilege, and when I blessed my luck as a broadcaster, that I went on to work with, was Gaizka Mendieta, who was playing for Spain in that tournament. Weirdly, wasn't allowed to take a penalty in the final where Italy went down to 10 men, then 9 men, but held on for... No, it's not one man went to mow. Went on to hold on for a draw, even with 9 men against Spain. The Spain of De La Peña, Raul, Mendieta, Oscar Garcia. And the Italians won on penalty. A lesson learned there and then for me and for Gaizka. The next time I saw Gaizka play in person was when I don't know how I was shrewd enough to go to the 1999 Copa del Rey final. Newspaper budgets were bigger then, down in the Olympic Stadium in Sevilla. And Valencia played Atletico Madrid. And perhaps one of the things that was most strange about it was that the Valencia manager, Claudio Ranieri, was about to switch sides immediately after the game and join Atleti. The big golden or buttermilk coloured moon that hung over the stadium as if it was going to eclipse the playing surface will live with me forever. It was a beautiful night, embellished by, I think, technically the greatest goal I've ever been present to witness. Certainly better than Zidane's goal at Hampden, and it was scored by Gaizka Mendieta. When we put this podcast out, when you're listening to it, I'm going to make sure that it's easily available for you to watch on YouTube, Gaizka's goal against Atletico Madrid. Suffice to say, it's utter genius. Maybe the best goal ever scored. Yet, nobody talks about that. Everybody talks about Maradona, talks about Zidane. Watch Gaizka's goal in the 33rd minute against Atletico Madrid. And then marvel at the fact that in this podcast, he tells me that when he arrived at Valencia, where he is now, regarded as one of the all-time great players for that club, a guy who guided them to 2 consecutive Champions League final, who Madrid wanted to sign and Valencia refused to let him go, who went for what was a world record fee at the time for a midfielder from Valencia to Lazio. Gaizka, who was twice voted the European Midfielder of the Year. When he arrived at Valencia, he thought he wasn't good enough. He was told he wasn't good enough. He told me in this podcast that he thought he lacked technical skills, technique. It's utterly unbelievable when you consider the player he became, a player who went on to become a remorseless, cold-eyed penalty taker, except that when he describes the art in this podcast with me, he kind of gets nervous for the first time in his life and wonders how the hell he did it. We go on to talk about his spell at Middlesbrough, which for him was mostly extraordinarily pleasant. And I spent time with a guy who I've loved getting to know because he is intelligent, generous, articulate, multilingual, and I still consider him to be one of the greatest footballers I've had the pleasure to witness in my career. A damn fine man, which is the reason we brought him to you on the big interview. Gaizka Mendieta, welcome to the big interview. And one of the things I'll say immediately is the strange thing is that the previous guests didn't really know what I'm like, but you do, because you've had to
I do.
put up with me
Yeah.
on set in Sky, the occasional night out, and still you said yes.
Most for good. I know you most for good. Yeah.
Your love of football must be very strong
Yes.
to put up with me
Like
again.
yours, yeah.
It's not just Sky and a love of music and a love of football that links us, because as anybody who's ever listened to me by now is bored of hearing, my first great foreign experience when I'd never left Britain in my life before was in 1982, when I was determined to follow Scotland to the World Cup. From your point of view, I went to the wrong part of Spain, because Scotland were in Andalusia with the USSR and New Zealand and Brazil. You're significantly younger as well as more talented than me, but you were in one of the host cities. We haven't spoken about it. I'm curious, maybe you're going to say, I don't remember anything about it, but you were in your birth city, which was a host city, and I think it had the first game of Naranjito.
It did. And although my memories of those days and the World Cup wasn't probably as for you because you were working, I was just a kid that watched it on TV. And I'd say this in the beginning, so maybe that helps people to understand. I wasn't a big fan of football. I love football, but I wouldn't watch every single game on telly. My dad was a footballer, so obviously at home, the games were all the time. And I loved watching it. Remember, obviously, all the guys, Butragueño, Arconada, people that then, and afterwards, I got lucky to get to know. But yeah, I mean, obviously, watching it. Everyone in Spain watched that World Cup.
You've taken me in a different direction. And what did you do instead of football then? There's a thing called fronton up there, but what was your thing if it wasn't?
No, I've always been sporty. I started with football, but I wasn't more for watching on TV. I used to get bored.
So you played?
I played.
You played?
I played, yeah.
The game that came to town, and I don't know how much notice people took of it, not television only, is I'm sure it's some memories.
Yeah.
England-France came to town, no? It was England-France. I think it was the
England, France, and
the first game of the.
I think so.
It ends 3-1. But you weren't aware of an invasion of fans, or did you live in the city centre?
No, not really. I know on those days we moved out from Bilbao, but obviously spent the summer holidays over there. So that's why we were there. But I don't remember particularly like seeing the town busier than usual. Like I say again, because I wasn't involved in the whole thing of wanted to go to the match in the stadiums, going to watch the training with the legends and the players that were involved in the national teams. So I was doing my random things that every other kid would be on my bike or play with my friends football somewhere else. And then whenever the game was on, go home to watch it. But not like a football fan that we wanted to get all the autographs and pictures in those days was something more difficult. But no, it wasn't like a proper football experience under the point of view of a football fan.
And your dad? What did he do with his football skill?
He retired in Castellón when he finished there. That's what one of the reasons we stay in that part of Spain. And then he started different business. Well, he was coach for a long time, Castellón, and then the B team of the Castellón, and then different teams in the region. He was also my manager in Oropesa, which he helped me a lot through all my career, not just football, personally, the experience he had and everything. I was very lucky.
Who was the first one that really taught you that you had proper talent? Or when did you realise that rather than just being able to play and being athletic, that you could, because I've seen you up close, you can do things with a football, and now I'm not joking. All throughout your career, you did exceptional things with the ball. When did that begin to dawn on you? Or did somebody tap you on the shoulder and say, hey kid, you're quite good?
I wasn't never a technical player. I was midfielder, holding midfielder, because my fitness was better than most of the average players in those days. That was the reason why I went into athletics. I was, runner-up in Spain in 1,000 hurdle meters. And
second in the nation.
I was in Spain. When I was 13, then I had the record for the region in 1,000 meters to 39. I was running, for me wasn't a problem, wasn't an issue. As you might be surprised, obviously that was something that I learned, and we'll probably come to that later. But no, I was the holding midfielder. I used to get the ball, give it to the guy that was next to me or the other guy. I would never, Funny enough, I used to take penalties, not in the same technique that I do now. But no, that became later. And actually, when I started in Castellón, I was holding midfielder. I went to Valencia, started as a holding midfielder. It was when I arrived to Valencia, and I remember Roberto. Played Barça, Spain so many times, the World Cup as well, Valencia and Barça.
Striker, right?
No, the midfielder. Roberto Fernandez.
Okay.
And obviously afterwards, after a few years, and we're still friends, he always tell me, when we saw you arrive the first training session, we thought, who the hell is this guy? Can't even stop the ball.
No.
Yeah. So that tells you I was someone that I would run, that it wouldn't make it difficult. I would make it easier for my teammates, but I wouldn't do anything spectacular or anything amazing.
Well, what the hell?
I never really thought, ooh, I'm good for this. Or, I got talent for football. My dad always saw a potential in me because saw the fitness, the physical, the intelligence in the sort of reading the game, how to be in the right place or to get the balls and not trying to make anything that I knew I wasn't capable of doing it. So with few advice that he always gave me and the practice.
So that's going to be the key to link back to what I'm saying now, because maybe we have an audience who possibly know you for Middlesbrough and Sky. Maybe we have an audience who saw you for Spain. Hopefully a lot of the people listening did see you for Valencia too in the prime. But what is absolutely beyond argument are the things that I'm going to relate now, which is that you were European Footballer of the Year, European Midfielder of the Year. Until Fernando Torres moved to Chelsea, you were Spain's most expensive footballer ever. I'm going to talk about this later, not now, but you scored the greatest goal the most technically stunning goal in the history of football. Forget Pelé, forget Messi, forget Zidane. We'll come to that in a minute. But you've just told me that Roberto said to you when you got to you couldn't control the ball. Yeah. What the hell happened, man? What changed between that and the man who was, would have been listed in your peak for 6-7 years in the top 5-6 players in the world?
It happened that as any other player or person or sportsman, I had a talent. My talent was obviously the fitness, but I had the talent of learning, and I wasn't afraid to learn, and I wanted to learn. When I got to Valencia, my first season after Castellón, Gus Hiddink was the coach. So I used to get, as the Dutch mentality, used to get all the young players before training, 8 a.m. on the pitch, and it was all about technique and passing and technique and crosses and shooting and passing. I didn't mention this, but before, when I was at Castellón, when I was living with my parents, my dad used to give me like skills to do, like zigzagging. So I used to go on my own against the wall, kicking the ball. Bless my brothers. I used to take my brothers, one as a goalkeeper, the other one would be the defender. So I used to, any chance I got to try to improve with the help of, in this case, family. And then when I arrived to Valencia with the practice and trainings, that luckily Gus Hiddink planned for all the young players. So we used to do this session, then the training with the team, then rest, and I think twice a week, another technique thing. So it was a learning process. It wasn't like I was gifted and born with that.
But throughout football, and I can now speak from the countries I've lived or worked in, also from speaking to colleagues more widely around the world, the majority instinct in football would be, if you don't have it when you're first seen, then you're no good. Yeah. Goodbye, move on, turn a page, get the next guy. Yeah. Whereas you existed with your own mentality, right, but with your dad's mentality, with Hiddink's mentality, with your brother's help, saying, wherever I am now, I can get better. I can get significantly better. And Hiddink was creating an atmosphere. Was it still Paterna? Was it?
Yeah, Paterna, yeah.
The training ground from Valencia saying, I know if we take these kids and we drill them over and over again, they can improve in every aspect. I think that stands out as a jewel of an idea, brilliant idea, and completely different from all the idiots who go, I've seen him, he's too small, or he's too slow, or he can't do, therefore goodbye. In that mentality, would have lost you to professional football.
Yeah. If any manager with very short-sighted mentality and stuff would say, well, this guy, is not good enough, we don't want him. Well, it would have happened in Castellón, if anything, before, because when Roberto Gil and the guys that work for Arturo Tuzón, the president of Valencia back in the day, saw me play for Castellón, they obviously saw something to buy me and get me to Valencia. So it was in Castellón where someone I had... my coaches, that is so the potential. I don't think anyone could have said that I would have reached where I did, as going from a team player, if you like, and physical, to a technical player as a reference. I don't think even myself could show that comment.
Well, without taking any credit away from you and those around you, that's part of the beauty of football, that these stories can be just stunningly incredible, and you must never give up. And I guess I know how busy you are, and you're about to jet off to Spain again to work, and it might be you haven't had time to listen to the previous podcasts, but I'm lucky to have the trust of a guy I like. A guy, actually, I hadn't thought of this before now, who reminds me of you a little bit, in that when I was young, I was watching Aberdeen, which is a team I really care about, as you know, and we signed a guy called Gordon Strachan. He's now the Scotland coach, and we signed him from Dundee. He's about your dimensions. He was very similar in terms of ability. He could do things that made you want to buy the ticket, that made your team more likely to win, but also he did things that made football beautiful. And like you, it was about winning. He wanted to win, make his team better. It wasn't for show, but he reminded me a lot. And recently we sat with him in this interview and said, skills shortage in Scotland, and he said, do you know what I've done? Because he's now passionate about changing people's closed vision, like you talked about. Whatever he is, Gordon, I'm sorry, maybe he's 55, maybe he's younger, but he goes into his garage to try and test his theory. He says to his wife, as he said, listen, take a stopwatch and time me, and bang on the door when half an hour is up, clears everything out of the garage, and just plays the ball off each wall to keep it going, the Scotland manager on his own, to seeing how many touches he can get in half an hour. And he said it was about 1,100. So his idea from that is to go back to the coaches who say, like to kids, 14, 15-year-old kids who are not practicing. My point is the way you did, repeat, practice, drill, ball all the time, they maybe play for a team, they travel an hour and a half, they touch the ball 5 times in the pitch, they travel an hour and a half back, and they never know that football can be beautiful, that they can get better, and that they might be European Midfielder of the Year one day. But your story really hits with what Strachan said, that you were able to change your life, because you became, in my words, a brilliantly technical player.
Well, I think if you look at even nowadays, Messi, Ronaldo, they were born with a gift, but that gift have to be polished, have to be perfected, have to be practiced, there's so many things. If you're not right in your head, if you're not focused in your game, and you're down to earth and knowing your limitations, you won't make it. There used to be guys that played with me when I was 16. Barca wanting them, Madrid wanting them, because they were brilliant, and you know, I used to watch them and like, these guys are very good. I'm not at that level. None of them have made it, basically because mentally, and that's something that people, I don't think, never get to understand, the sacrifices you make when you're at their age, when you are probably from 13.
Detail them then. When you say they don't understand.
No, they understand that when all your friends go out and have a drink or go out for the weekend somewhere else and travel, you don't. You either training, you either sleeping because you got a game next day, so many other things. I used to go, because once you start to train with the first team, you train in the mornings and you go school at night. So your day is completely the other way around as your friends, and you get new friends. But if you focus on your game, which it doesn't assure you're gonna make it, but that's the way of doing it. So you have to mature when all your friends still having fun.
It was worth it in the end, and we'll come back to Valencia in a minute, but typically I want to get me in the story again. 1996, May, Montjuic. You've played for, I think, Spain under 18, under 20, but I remember coming away from my oldest daughter's christening to head to Barcelona to work for the first time. I'd been there for football and for fun before, but this was my first working assignment, and it was the European under 21 championships. 4 teams got through to a semi-final, final, sort of knockout little mini tournament. Do you remember the 4 teams? My accent's a clue to one of them.
Your probably is better than yours. Yeah, one was Scotland, which I got the T-shirt.
No way.
Yeah, I got one. I can't remember which player it was, but I got it. I got it from Scotland, Italy, Spain, and the other one, that's one. You tell me.
Let me say the words: Vieira, Makelele.
Oh, France. Yeah, I thought
Tony Varel.
Yeah.
Pires.
Pires, when I say Pires.
So let's go on with let's start with Mendieta. Let's go on with some of the other names. Raúl.
With us was Raúl, De La Peña, Oscar García Yuñez, who else? Lardín.
And for Italy, if I remember correctly, there was Cannavaro,
Yeah.
Totti, Nesta.
Vieri, Nesta.
Buffon was on the bench.
Yeah.
Absolutely one of the most incredible tournaments I've ever
Scotland,
seen.
I can remember.
We like to be lower profile.
Yeah, it's
right?
about a team.
Some of those guys.
No, they were.
What actually happened was Brian O'Neill was playing very well, and Bayern Munich sent scouts to watch Brian
Wasn't
O'Neill.
that Ferguson, I think, playing that team? Could it be?
If I remember correctly, there'd have been a Derek Stilley. I'm not convinced about Ian Ferguson, but you could be right.
I'm not sure.
What I do know is that we had Tommy Craig as our manager. One of the many things that I found fascinating about that tournament, Scotland lose initially to your team.
Yeah, to us. Yeah.
De La Peña plays.
Yeah,
That night, the phrase has been used too often, but at that time, the phrase to reuse was Maradona. And we saw him, he was never as quick in the dribble, but his use of the ball, at that stage, his power, he made a goal, I think, maybe for Oscar, but certainly he bent a free kick in for a header and he ran the game and it was a joy to watch. And
De La Peña back then was unbelievable.
Spain won very, very easily indeed. But I wondered for a young Basque, your management team then was Clemente, who'd won the title for Athletic.
Yeah.
And his number 2 was what we knew in Britain as the butcher of Bilbao.
He was.
Andoni Goicoechea.
Yeah, correct.
Who showed an enthusiasm for Maradona's leg at the Camp Nou between Athletic and Barcelona. Yeah. As a young Basque, did you know about that incident?
Yeah, of course.
And what did you think about having him as your... Tell me about Goicoechea.
He is a lovely guy. He's yeah, in terms of...
Is that fear?
No, he's a great guy. He's a great guy. Like anything in life or football, Athletic Bilbao back in the days was all about character, all about physical, all about getting the ball in the flanks and get crosses. More or less like in England or in Britain was that sort of football. So he was about that. So whenever I tried to mess up with him, the power would come out. And that's how he come out. He was about that. Probably obviously taken to the extreme, the way he did with Maradona, and he always regretted it. And
he did?
Yeah, he did.
That's a genuine question because over here,
remember, never meant it.
There was no Sky.
No.
So when you saw Spanish football, which we saw that tackle, that moment, so it had a big impact over here, which is why I became the butcher of Bilbao, because we hadn't seen much Spanish football. But in Spain at the time when that happened, you were still a young man.
Yeah.
But what was the reaction? What was the feeling?
Well, it was obviously wow, no one could watch the replay. But for us, was an honor because he was a Spanish legend, international with Spain, Athletic Bilbao, one of the great players we had, and it was like look up at him as an admiration. We didn't think he was the guy that he broke the leg to Maradona. No, we never did. We had admiration for him, as well as for Clemente, which Clemente was player.
Yeah,
but he never made it as probably Goicoechea did, and we had huge respect for them. And I'm thinking now, there's an interview. There was a Spanish TV program on TV, and they've got Maradona, and they rang Goicoechea, and Goicoechea was kind of saying, it's difficult to say I'm sorry sometimes, like openly, and you've already said it, and you might not have to feel to say it because it's a game. It's a football. What happens on the pitch stays on the pitch. And he was trying to say it, but Maradona was quite funny with him, and he kind of said, okay, whatever.
He was offhand with him.
He was like putting the hand. Diego Maradona wouldn't put it back on, so the guy was like, all right.
It was an extraordinary time because if I remember correctly, I was about to use the word hatred, which is wrong. The rivalry between Athletic and Barcelona and between Clemente and Cruyff had got out of hand in general.
Yeah.
And when Maradona came back, I think at the end of that season, I think the cup final was Barcelona Athletic.
Yeah, it was again in the final. Yeah.
And it ended up with them kicking
was the kicks in the back
shit out of each other and punching and running. And
that wasn't nice. No. If you can imagine, for people that don't really know Spanish football, there's a lot of politics involved in, the Basques, the Catalans, the Barça, the power, the no power, whoever represents whatever in their own back town and stuff, like Madrid and Valencia, Atletico Madrid and Madrid. Same as in England. Every team represents a social group of people, and that Barça Athletic Bilbao became more than a sport, and that's what the reactions we saw on every challenge on those days.
You really kindly helped me out with my book about Spain, and you once said that you'd never really felt big divisions between Basque and Madrileños when you came to the national team, and that it was more unified than we might have expected. That group there in 96 was pretty unified, and you went to the final because you beat Scotland, and France were beaten by Italy. And I learned a big lesson that day. Do you remember the final? Can you anticipate the things I'm going to ask you about?
No.
Most footballers view it differently. No, I anticipated that because you play it, you win it, you don't win it, you move on. You went on to achieve 1,000 different things afterwards.
No.
But I was knocked out that day because you grow up in Scotland, you don't go to Calcio, you hear about Catenaccio, you hear about the Italian mentality, and then I saw it. I think they had one of their players sent off in about 8 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's 11 against 10. Scotland have just been beaten by Spain. You have very, very good footballers. Very good footballers. Karanka centre back.
Well,
Middlesbrough manager now. Not only do they have a second man sent off, but they just... And the coach, of course, is Cesare Maldini.
Mm-hmm.
You know, an elegant libero sweeper who gave birth to one of the all-time great defenders. And he just... I don't know how he communicated it. Whether he raised one of those Iggy Pop eyebrows, because he does look like Iggy.
Yeah.
And he's got a lust for life.
Yeah.
Or whether he sent out a carrier pigeon, but the shutters came down.
Mm-hmm.
Spain had all the ball. You bombarded that goal. It went through extra time, and then it went to penalties.
Penalties, yeah.
Who didn't take one?
Myself.
Correct. What the hell?
Because, as I said earlier, although in Castellón I used to take penalties, that was probably about the time. After that, I wasn't a player considered by managers to be one of or amongst the technical ones. And you know, like probably nowadays everything is become more specialized, more professionalized in terms of everyone, you know, they watch kicking penalties or taking the ball. In those days, guys would take free kicks and penalties were normally the midfielders, the technical ones. So I wasn't on the list to take the penalties.
So if anybody hasn't looked at your career, followed it the way I have, they might be wondering why I'm making a fuss about it.
Mm-hmm.
So Spain lose to Italy. That's the lesson I think I learned about the Italian mentality, which in some ways, you know, it wasn't a great game because they closed up shop, but they had 2 men sent off. They went through extra time and they won, which we both know is the thing.
Mm-hmm.
The first big game of your next season is about match 4 and it's at the Bernabeu.
Mm-hmm.
And you score a penalty.
Yeah.
What do you do to impress... Who's the coach then?
Would have been Hiddink.
Still Hiddink.
Yeah.
What happens to make him say, we're at the Bernabeu, it's Valencia Madrid, the guy who wasn't trusted in May for Spain. I tell you who's taking our penalty. It's Gaizka Mendieta.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, it was a process of obviously practicing and becoming more confident. And I think more than myself getting more confident, it was making people realize, well, this guy is not all just about running. And because that game I played as a right back, which I used to hate. Play right back. It's the worst position ever. So yeah, it was, like I said, it was...
Did you have to say, boss, I want this? I want to be, not that day, but
no,
I want to be the penalty taker?
Was more of the team, which he said, look, this guy... He's taking penalties, doesn't miss it because you know in trainings you always stay longer and with the goalkeepers, taking penalties, free kicks. That's always the joke. So I think I earned the respect by my teammates through that. I remember it was Mijatovic was the one that used to take them. We had Shalenko, the Russian guy. Yeah, they were the guys that used to take penalties. So came to that moment where I think Mijatovic missed 1 or 2. Shalenko wasn't there anymore. So the guy said. I remember Camarasa and Giner, which was the more experienced players there, they said, you are the next one. We've seen you kicking the free kicks. We've seen you taking penalties. You're the next one. I was like, okay. So I take the penalty at the Bernabeu, Paco Bullo, and score.
Can you remember it?
Yeah. It was in the goal as you come out the tunnel on the right side, wasn't it? Yeah. I can remember, yeah. And Gonga was there as well, which was a good penalty taker as well. But the guys, which I think is what makes me happier and proud of that there was my teammates.
They elected you.
Yeah, they kind of saying, you know, this is the guy. Normally the manager, he says 1, 2, 3, you take the penalties, but it was actually the guys trusting me to take it, and that I think that for me was a huge honor.
You're going to go on to continually score penalties at the Bernabeu, pretty regularly. Against Barcelona, against Arsenal, Manchester United, certainly famously. We don't want to go on too much about San Siro, which is a disappointing night, but you feature there scoring a penalty before the fans were in the stadium and the teams were out. About 90 minutes before kickoff. It was that early. You score your penalty in the shootout. I guess you score for Borough against Everton and Spurs in the 2.
I miss the Spurs one.
Then we come back to that.
Yeah.
But you'd accept my proposition that at one stage you were the world's best penalty taker. What was the mentality? What was your technique? What went through your head?
A practice, learning process, and watching other players doing it. And I mentioned earlier Oleg Salenko. He was the guy that I would take the penalties. It looked like it was a joke. It was just take a jog, a run, not very fast, and watching the goalkeeper. Obviously, goalkeeper, the longer you take without being very slow, they get anxious. They need to, because they like to be quick. So they make a decision which side to go, so they don't have much time to think. But the guy was like running and then waiting, pop, the other side. I learned, and somehow it became my way of taking them, because before that I used to, like most players do, choose one side and go for that. And then the better you are, obviously, the more easy you could put it somewhere.
So if I understand you correctly, you've got the Bernabeu in this instance all around you. It's noisy, there's pressure, your heart's thumping. But what you begin to choose to do is to run up, trusting that your technique will be good without looking at the ball, and you watch what card players call a tell.
Yeah.
You wait for a tell in the goalkeeper.
Literally, you run just not even a second, maybe with 1 second or so. At that moment when the goalkeeper moves, because goalkeepers always move. If any watches or replays, goalkeepers always have to move before, otherwise they won't make it. So wait and then kick it to the other side. Sometimes they will wait, and by the time I get to the ball, they've not moved yet, and then I'll go for one side. Sometimes, like you mentioned, the one in the Champions League final, Oliver Kahn, rather than going one side to save it, it took a couple of steps in front to try to reduce the space. So by the time it comes out, I've kicked it. By the time again he goes down and tries to save, it was too late. Putting more pace, so it was difficult.
So you used his forward momentum to realise that he can't be diving left or right in the split second that he's moving forward, and if you hit it harder, it's more likely to go underneath his dive, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. I know.
Have you ever thought about the micro?
No, I'm thinking now, it sounds so difficult.
But the micro processing that's going on in your
that's
brain.
The process. It is. Is the run? Wait for the goalkeeper. Once the goalkeeper is there and you buy the ball just about to kick it, has he moved? Has he chosen one side? Has he coming up? I have to put more pace on the ball, more on the angle, more just putting on one side?
So that took about 11 seconds to say, and you processed it in the Champions League final in that instance, but again and again over your career in maybe 11 millionths of a second, all that information. I'm raising it because if you're a confident man or woman who plays football, you're always like, yeah, I'd like the penalty. But when you begin to think above the thing about being confident or brave or stupid enough to take it, what you don't think about is everything that's involved. And I really like the
basically
fact,
probably because of that.
I made you nervous 14 years later. I just love that.
Thinking, oh, wow, really all that?
I'm not taking it ever again. But when was the feeling the same when they all went in? Job done. Thanks.
It was confident. I knew. Because it worked. So when something is working and you see it,
life,
like in life,
you just expect.
So it worked. I go to the penalty, put the ball, get my run, goalkeeper will move. Actually, Molina was the goalkeeper, Jose Molina, the goalkeeper of Atletico Madrid, which won the double.
Famously went on to be part of Super Depor as well.
Yeah, exactly, and he played for Spain,
beat cancer.
left winger.
Came on and played.
With Clemente.
Only in Spain, only with Clemente.
Yeah, exactly. And he was playing for Atletico Madrid. So the guy, we've played together at Valencia and the B team, we trained together for years. So when it came to take the penalty, it was like, this guy knows the stuff. So I remember I missed the first one, I hit the post, and then we scored. And the second one, I took it again and I scored again. So it was all about confidence. Although I missed the first one, I knew I would score the second. It was just the odd time that I could possibly miss the penalty with that technique.
I don't know how to treat the Champions League finals, and I think I'm going to leave it for a second and put the happy thing first, because you've been so good to me. You like your music, right?
Yeah.
Prince. Have you ever met Prince? Do you like his music?
Prince.
Yeah, Prince.
The Prince.
Prince, as in...
I like some songs. I'm not a big fan of him.
Did he write 1999 for you?
No.
Tonight we're going to party like it's... Because 99 in my view, saw Valencia, not just Gaizka Mendieta, run literally the perfect cup campaign. It ends with you under a big, huge, copper-coloured moon gigantic moon, which looked the size of the stadium to me, down in Sevilla, in what I think they call the Olympics.
Yeah, it was the Olympic, yeah.
It's a magic
La
island,
Peneta, no?
Cartucha, or whatever.
Cartuja.
Playing against Atletico. But before we even get to the story of the goal, you have a local derby,
Yeah.
and you pump Levante.
Yeah.
Then you're out because you draw sequentially Barcelona and Real Madrid.
Yeah.
During which time Valencia score 14 goals.
Barcelona.
So for everybody who's got to know Gaizka, maybe you're too young to have watched this, or maybe you didn't have Sky in those days. For anyone who's got to know Gaizka as an articulate, multilingual, well-dressed, very intelligent football pundit, he could play. Valencia scored 14 goals in 2 rounds, eliminating Barcelona and Real Madrid. Pick something out of those 4 games to tell me about, because we could spend a day talking about them.
When we had actually in the draw Barca and Madrid, I think we actually were quite happy because we knew back in those days, we knew how to beat them. If it would have been, we play Bayern Munich, we play back in these Rangers and big teams in Europe, but we thought we found the click and the way to beat these teams. So we were confident when we play against Barca. It was huge.
We're talking about you, Claudio Lopez,
Angloma, Carboni, Ayala, Pellegrino, Dukic, Farinos, Gerard, Luis Milla.
Luis Milla, who left Barcelona to go to Madrid when Pep was brought through by Cruyff because the president wouldn't allow him to buy Mjalby, Jan Molby. Right throughout the team, you had tremendous talent. Your coach who was your coach again? Now, and what's he doing today?
I think he's in Champions League spot at the moment.
Claudio Ranieri was your coach, Leicester manager, right?
Yeah.
But that group, all of you, you believed. Let's just say what you said again and underline it. Good, it's Barcelona and Real Madrid. We'll beat them.
We knew it because we in football it's all about the confidence. It's all about the momentum. And we knew with these teams, we play not just with Claudio Ranieri, we play with Cooper, we play with
Aragonés.
Not as much as probably with Ranieri and Cooper, which we used to absolutely always beat them. I don't think they beat us once in probably we play Cup, Liga and Champions League, and we beat them all the time.
Your record against Barcelona and Real Madrid, I think, is 28 matches and you only lost 12 times.
Yeah.
And the majority of them
normally is the other way
wins.
Around,
No, normally the stat is gigantically the other way around.
Especially, I remember the days going to the Nou Camp when Johan Cruyff was the manager and started this sort of tiki-taka philosophy.
He changed the brand of football, didn't he?
He did. He definitely did it. With Barca, our mentality was the other way around. That's why I was bringing it on. Because we're going to the Nou Camp to say, guys, today we're going to run. We're going to run for fun after the ball. We might not get much the ball. Be patient, don't lose composure, position, blah, blah, blah. And that we managed to change it over.
You were betting that if you ran enough, somebody, maybe even Pep in midfield, or you say would make a mistake, right?
Yeah, we were waiting for them to make a mistake because we knew how good they were. You couldn't beat them by playing football. As we understand football, passing and
you couldn't outplay them.
Outplay them, exactly. Yeah.
Vale.
We could outplay them by, as a team, as being together, running together, pressing at the right moment in the right place and getting the ball in the right positions to then maybe get 2-3 chances and make sure you get them. So that changed when in those days because our style of football, a team that although probably saw the peak with Ranieri and Cooper, it was started with Luis Aragonés. Piojo when I was only a young player, Luis Milla, guys we've mentioned, we were 3-4 years younger. So we weren't the players that we were back in the day. Valencia, I think, cleverly saw this potential and kept this team for so many years. I think even I'd say Benitez kind of still managed to get something out of that group that we were since Luis Aragonés, probably Benitez. That's probably an era where the same sort of principles, mentality, competitiveness, everything you want as a group was preserved.
Looking at those 2 semi-finals then, given that there was a methodology, a confidence, huge talent, You were also a hard team to play against. There were some mean guys in that team.
Yeah.
There was guys you didn't like losing, and who could make sure that they did what was needed to win. Who would have tended to be your direct opponent, trying to close you down, or you had to stop in those in the quarter and the semi-final in '99 against Barcelona and Real Madrid? Who would have been the guy that you said you're not having a good day today? Against you,
Against us.
For Barca, for Real Madrid. These would be the days maybe already of
Yeah,
Mars.
well,
No.
with Barca, would have been Guardiola, the guy we needed to stop and say he can get the ball. I remember, I think with Ranieri, one game at Mestalla, he asked me to shadow him. I said, Rafa, well, yeah, you just stick with him all the time. So whenever the ball was going to him, I would try to close him. As soon as I went, the other guys, so it was like automatic.
So you closed Pep, but then behind you,
Yeah.
Farinos maybe, or
Farinos,
Gerard.
Kili Gonzalez.
Kili.
Yeah.
Wow, another good player.
I know.
They had, when you sat in
mechanisms,
the Sky studio,
Yeah.
analysing what Pep, the coach, did for Barcelona,
Yeah.
really you could have done it in your sleep because
Yeah.
you did it.
Well, we knew he was the guy that the whole Barca went around him. He was the one, the tempo, the ball. So, by stopping him, Barca won't play, which is they won't feel comfortable. We get upset. We'll get the ball in further up than the halfway line, which with the pace we had up front, it was lethal. And when we stopped them by possession, making us defend deeper and deeper and deeper.
You comfortably eliminate the two biggest clubs in the world.
Yeah.
And you go to Sevilla for the final, and it's Atleti. I think as a group you already know that Crazy Claudio is going to leave Valencia at the end of the game and join who? Atletico Madrid, who are your rivals, in the final.
Yeah.
I mean, that's Spain in a nutshell, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Where else?
We play Mallorca home last game. We qualify for the Champions League. That was the last game of Claudio at Mestalla, which everyone knew he was leaving. And then, but when we played the cup final, we knew he was leaving, and he was, all of the rumors obviously, heading to Atletico Madrid. Our squad, I wouldn't say even the team, the squad was strong, was confident. We all knew how to play, what to do. And when I'm thinking now, when we're saying all the time, we knew how to beat Madrid and Barca. I don't want to make it sound like it was easy, because it was...
You didn't?
No, but really hard. And actually, I remember...
I think what I heard in my ear was we knew how to, we knew what to do, we knew what they didn't like, where their weaknesses were, and we were a group, and we knew... I mean, is that a right representation?
I think so. But we beat Madrid in the cup, Spanish Cup. We beat them 1-6 at home. Second leg in the Bernabeu. We got to the Bernabeu. We say, guys, don't panic. Play normal. Don't think of the result. Just try to go and win. In the first 15 minutes, they scored 3 goals. Morientes 2 and Raúl, I think.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. Oh. a team of professionals, 1-6, 6-1 we won. And we were like panicking.
Yeah.
That's how... What I'm trying to say is there were big teams. There were times where confidence was everything. We beat them 1-6. All of a sudden, the coin flipped to the other side, and we were like 3-0 at home at the Bernabeu, thinking they're going to beat us. But it's all about the confidence. And then going back to the final, the final...
Whoa. You know how to play, you know how to dress, you know how to spin discs, but you don't know how to tell a story. Don't leave the audience lying there. You're 6-1 up.
And then we went through.
You're 6-4 down. You're panicking. But what the hell happens?
Just this myth of the Bernabeu and the comebacks and the...
But how do you turn
miedo escénico.
Who steps up? Who has the cojones? Who says, lads, no more? And
we all said it. Well, at that time, I was there in midfield. I think it was Luis Milla, Anglomar Carboni. So there were experienced guys there.
Final score in the semi-final.
I think it was 3-0 or 4-1, something like that.
I think you score
4-1. I think we scored 1.
Yeah. So it's down to Seville. Led by the mighty Leicester manager of today, who's going to leave for Atletico, who are your cup final rivals. And I don't want to be mean to Piojo Lopez, who I think maybe gets 2 goals. But certainly you thrash Radian teaches Atletico. Radi was famous here for Luton, and I met him, I know him well, and Dusan, his son, and I thought he did impressive things, and you'll end up being managed by him very, very briefly at the Camp Nou. But you absolutely thrash Atleti, and I joked before, but I think you have to be honest and say that you scored a candidate for the single best goal of all time. And the most common, before I ask you to describe it, the most common comparison that's made is with Pelé's goal in the 1958 World Cup final.
World Cup final, yeah.
Now that's why I said in the intro, like, you must be really angry with Messi, and people going on about Messi's goal at the Bernabeu and Zidane at Hampden, but now I'm not joking. This goal was better than those, in my view. Can you tell us a little bit about what happens in the goal? What do you do?
Well, it was, I'll start a bit earlier. Before the game, I think it was the night before, or maybe in the same day, in the morning, Ranieri calls me in my room and says, need to speak to you before the game. Okay, I'll go to his room. And he says, I need you to ask you a big favor today. Haven't got left backs.
Get out of here.
Yeah. I think Middlebrough couldn't play, and
Jockey.
Gerardo.
Good man, Jockey.
Speaking to him last night.
What a fantastic guy.
He's
Rangers legend.
Guy.
Spoke to him
Rangers
last night.
well,
Lovely guy. His boys are in the youth system now,
Is it? Yeah.
Good man, Jockey.
Yeah. I don't know if it was injury, couldn't play because of yellow card, red card. Gerardo, which was normally the one that would replace him, he had, I think it's the groin or something. So he says, we need you there. So Gafa, I played another final with Valencia, which we lost against Spanish Cup final. I lost against Deportivo.
Yeah, what happened in that one?
Remember that one with the hailstones that it got stopped and...
There wasn't a red card in that
and someone got, two yellows.
Yeah.
Two, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
First one, only one. Yeah, that's the only one.
You know who we're talking about, don't you?
Got a good memory. Done your homework.
No, I just like football.
Yeah, okay.
So Gaizka was sent off in his previous cup final with Valencia. So when the boss says to you left back, you're going, come on, boss, I want to win this one.
It's the final. Can play me on the left back. Yeah, we need you there. So, okay, play final. And then it turned up. So my thoughts about the game was like, sure, you always want to play a final to shine, to score goals, to make history, have your impact, especially as a captain and stuff. And I was like, right, I don't have to play my second role in the team and do whatever I need to do there. But the way the game started, I was up and down. I was going and attacking. I said, yes, you take care of that.
Who were you saying that to?
Well, that was Ayala and Jukic would have been in the...
Did you leave them with three at the back?
No, I was...
I mean, in a formation Anglama, Ayala, Jukic, played a three, shuffled across.
Yeah, shuffled a little bit, yeah.
Because I was and you played at centre forward. Yeah. Up and down isn't true. Up and down isn't... Yeah. Maybe your legs felt like that, but because when your goal
then first one I said the one for Piojo. We absolutely, on the counter, we were so good. And I remember a diagonal to me on the left, got back and saw Piojo in the box and gets the volley. Then another volley is in the other way around. It's Ilya which makes the run.
Ilya, the Cobra, the Romanian who
he was
did so much damage to England in the... I was there, I guess, 1998 World Cup he scores. And he was like the Romanian Romario.
He was.
Wasn't he?
Incredible. 2 legs, quick. I remember when he signed for Valencia, he came in January. We were like, where did this guy come from? We never heard of him, and it was incredible. Anyway, so he gets the ball there. As I see, Piojo is obviously as a striker there, but there was the holding midfielders were kind of stopping there. No one was making runs to potentially getting the ball across something in the box. So there was me once again running forward. And as Ilya sees me, I ask the ball, thinking that he's gonna put it in front of me. So I'm gonna put it down and shoot or take any. We'll see. But the way he crosses the ball, I kind of run past the ball. So my only chance to do it and control it first is... When I say this, that's what it goes through your head once you're there. It's different afterwards when you see it. So
because you didn't see it for a long time afterwards.
No, I didn't see it for a long time. No. I'll tell you that story later. So chest, firstly to say, to control the ball because it was the closer to the ball that it was at the moment. Then trying to bring it down. I was, by that time, facing back the goal. My back was facing the goal. Knee. And then I see, obviously, I know who they are. I didn't know who they were back in the day. But I saw these shirts next to me. So I think, I'll flip it over whoever is a sombrero, and then I should be in goal. Not realizing that there were 4 players. I mean, I thought it was 1 or 2. I didn't. Like I said, that's at the moment. I just thought over my head, and then I should be in front of the goal. Well, and that's what happened. I put it over. I see I'm right in front of Molina, and I think all went through my head was target, especially was my left foot. Target. Don't trying to put pace and you put it up in the stands or wide or whatever, just target. Funny enough, I hit it with front foot, which normally when you go target, you put your inside. But I went front foot and it scored. And it was like, normally when you score a goal, you don't know what you're doing. You just run not thinking. That day, even, I can't even remember after goal. It was just, well, I've seen it. I knew I was running around, but my brain was completely just gone everywhere.
So was mine. I was there. I was working. I can't remember which editor said to me, yes, you can go. But we're in a beautiful night in Sevilla. I genuinely meant it's very dark by this stage because it kicked off late. The moon is huge. The moon is like a Euro Millions jackpot. It's that big, and it's copper, and it's hanging over the stadium. And Valencia are playing brilliantly. It's already strange to know that the manager of Valencia is going to join Atleti. You've made the first goal. Illy puts it in from the left, as you said. Valencia's left, and I see this guy who I've seen 3 years earlier in the under-21 tournament do exactly what you said. But I'm only mentioning this because it looked differently from what you described there. What it looked like Maradona's more skillful brother. You step out, chest control, knee up, I know where every player is, flick over my own head, turn, like Frank Worthington, if anybody remembers him, volley. I would argue that if I'll supply this on our blog, I'll supply the footage of this goal. If you watch it and you compare it with Zidane at Hampden, Messi at the Bernabeu, Pelé in 58, Maradona's in the World Cup where he drifts past half the England team is different. It's different in style. And then you're down to personal preferences, what you like more. Yeah. But to do so many skill movements in a compact space, in such a short space of time, to me, at the moment, I thought I'm looking at the best player in the world. In that moment, I just couldn't believe. Then, had I known it was you, I'd have known there was another one coming.
Yeah.
Any minute now. But you said you'd tell me another story about it.
Oh yeah. So the game finishes, we celebrate, got the cup. Everyone, what a goal you scored! In my head, I couldn't see the whole goal as the goal. I had the moment of chesting it, so I didn't have the whole picture. So yeah, what a goal, fantastic. Obviously, I knew it was something special, but it wasn't until I watched it, which, as I told you, when I used to play, I would watch my games to try to know what you did right, what you did wrong, the team, how we play. But if I score a goal or did something, I never really watched it. So this goal, I didn't watch it for years because I didn't want to watch it. Just basically, I didn't want to watch it.
Hard to understand.
Because I think in my mentality, the way I think, it was next thing. It's done, next thing. It's like when I think it was Michael Jordan when he said, whenever I've missed so many passes, I've missed so many game winners shots, blah, blah. So all you think is what you did wrong to not repeat it. So in my mind was like, in a way, by getting all this, how good what a goal, it might not be good for my...
of the million phrases that you have to learn when you listen to Pep, the first time I heard him say, praise makes you weak, I had to stop and think and listen, but you're saying the same as him.
It's the same, yeah.
In fact, he's obviously, given that was 1999, he's stolen it from you.
No, he's older than me, so...
You've been great with your time, but I've so much still to ask. I'm going to skip a little bit. You brought Middlesbrough their only ever trophy. It was pretty dramatic because we talked about knocking out Everton on penalties, knocking out Spurs on penalties, beating a good Arsenal side in the semi-final, and then Bolton. What are the memories that come from that cup run for you?
Oh, great memories. Not just, obviously, winning helps.
Good point.
But it was, if people remember in those days, there weren't many Spanish coming to England.
No.
It was me, which I came that season, and then Ivan Campo arrived to Bolton. Then mid-season, Fernando Hierro as well. So it was like Ivan we played together at Valencia. He's Basque, we with friends. So it was a great story. The Bolton of Ivan Campo against the Middlebrough Mendieta. Also because back in those days, we used to get letters in the club saying, how's Middlesbrough doing it? Because they weren't able to find out what was happening in the Premier League in Spain. That's how bad we were in those days in terms of communication.
In coverage,
yeah. Social media and all that stuff like nowadays. For the first time, I think the Spanish media made the effort because these two guys were playing a final in England.
At Wembley?
No, it was Cardiff.
Was it Cardiff in those days?
So it was great because of that, because it was me against Ivan, Bolton against Middlesbrough. Also, it was especially special because it was the chance for Middlesbrough again, after being knocked out, I think it was Chelsea previously, to raise a trophy after 128 years. My first season, when everyone, and I say always this with a smile, Valencia, Lazio, Barca, and then Middlesbrough. Everyone, was Mendieta going to Middlesbrough? Well, it was important for me to prove and to show, which I had a great time at Middlesbrough. I love the football we play there. We, not just the cup, the Europa League final. I think we was happy to, and never regretted to go to Middlesbrough. So in that way, it was a way of saying, look, could be the first Spanish to win a trophy in this country, or Ivan, which I would have been happy as well. So it was amazing. It was amazing. The whole reaction of the town, the media. For me, after not so much Barca, but Lazio having difficult times again, fighting to win trophies. The whole ingredients were just there, and the game I think started very well for us. It was great.
But you didn't take the penalty.
No.
Zenden took the penalty.
Zenden took the penalty.
Did he have something on you? Was it a bet? What
As I
the
mentioned
hell?
earlier, I missed the one against Spurs.
You missed one.
I know, but Steve McLaren, manager, said if there's a penalty, Bolo was the penalty taker.
What did you think about that? No. You can say now.
I can say now. Well, I didn't like it. Of course, I didn't like it because I only missed one.
Bolo, it's just as well you put it in, man. That's what I'm saying.
He did after I missed that one.
No, I'm not slagging him off. I'm just saying, if you've got somebody, we've been talking about confidence, rhythm, routine.
Yeah.
And you get a guy who's missed one, which
you had two choices. One, and go with Steve McLaren and grab him on the neck and say, why are you doing this? Or, just take it.
How did you watch?
So out of respect, I had to do it.
But in the moment when the penalty's called, did you find yourself?
No, because previously we had another one that even before Bolo was Yakubu. So Yakubu also Yakubu was afterwards. Sorry, I'm missing up. But in the sort of routine, Yakubu lost his place and Bolo lost his place to Yakubu. Managers do that. I didn't like it. Of course not. I was like, I should take this. I should be me taking that penalty. But
Que coño. Más o menos.
Exacto.
I saw Klopp the other day turn his back on that penalty. Didn't watch it. Did you watch Bolo take it?
Yeah.
It was a moment. It was a big moment, and you're not in control of the moment anymore.
No, it's more difficult. Yeah, it makes it even worse because when you're there, it's up to you. You got the confidence. You're gonna do it. You're gonna score. But when you're watching it, it's harder to. But I was watching. Yeah,
you looked.
I do look. Yeah.
Cool. Chapeau. Very Basque mentality.
Yeah, might be.
And then it didn't go fantastically at the end in Barra, but you said you were happy to be there. You helped them get to a European final, although you couldn't play in at the end. Was part of the reason of coming to Britain that you already liked our culture, but you liked our music? I mean, I'm not saying you signed for music. That would be stupid. But when you think about, will I go to the Premier League? Will I go to Middlesbrough? How's the money? Can I get out of Rome, please? Was it in the back of your mind that you could start to live a life that had more of the music you loved in it? Or did that only come after 2008?
No, well, it's the reasons coming, that this might sound stupid for some people. When I obviously was in Spain, I used to come to London whenever I get a chance, buy records. I went on holiday Scotland, the Highlands. I did all that drive around and blah, blah.
Of course.
So it's a country that I always liked, that I always loved. Yeah. And the music obviously is the big thing for me, but also the character of the people. In those days, you could only watch one game of the Premier League in Spain, Saturday, 3:00. And for as much as I love my siesta, I used to watch them. So I love a lot of things loved about the country. Mm-hmm. And I knew well that eventually I wanted to play in the Premier League. How that would be, how that happened, when, I didn't know. So when the opportunity come along to Middlesbrough, I completely reset and changed my approach to the game and everything. So in a way, yeah, it was coming to a place where I always loved with the music. Yeah, it was important, which I knew I could watch so many concerts.
Which, we're not kidding, that ability to go and watch live, good music live, the type of music or bands or individuals you like, that's a really big part of your life, isn't it?
It is, because, and you know me now, and you know, in my whole career, football was very important, but I had always more things, you know, in my life were other things like music, family, friends, and culture and other stuff. So when the football was finished, I had more things to do. My records, my concerts, traveling, everything was easier for to be there.
I like the word you've used there, because you used the word records, and we're into added time here, nearly into added time. I did a film shoot recently, a couple of years ago, at Arsenal's training ground with Santi Cazorla, who you know is a gem of a guy. Abu Dhabi and Young Jenkinson. Fantastic fella, lovely fella now at West Ham. And to make because you've been involved in filming, to make the little video interesting, there was a box of fake records, vinyl, with their faces and nice titles on the front, and they had to look through and they had to say, the Santi Cazorla one is not mine for Abu Dhabi. There's Abu, take it out and look at it. And they did it, they acted it beautifully, it looked really good. The graphics on the LPs, it was like faded, kind of swinging London 1960s faded pastel colour shapes and Burt Bacharach squares, and Gaizka smiling because he knows exactly what I mean, and most people have no idea what I'm talking about, but he does. And at the end of the shoot, I said to the guys, I said, do you know what these are? None of them had ever seen vinyl before. None of them had ever seen records before. They were like, nope. I think they thought they were, seriously, they thought they were Frisbees. These boys haven't lived. Now, you used the word record. You're an in-demand DJ. You take your skill and you use it all around Europe. I don't know if there's any gigs coming up that you want to talk about. You're also a shareholder in Iberica's chain of restaurants, which are in Manchester as well as in London. We're in London now when we're talking. There's 4 or 5 around London. You eat beautifully, because not everybody does Spanish cuisine well and wine well outside Spain, but they do.
Absolutely.
You do.
Couldn't say it better.
Rather than talk only about your gigs, what's the music you recur to most often? What do you reach for most often? At home, in the car? Who's the band, the man, the girl, the voice, the style that draws you back most often? Because I know that your taste goes right across all music.
Yeah. It's mostly in planes. In planes is where I do my playlists. When I'm at home, obviously Wi-Fi, where I think. That's where I put a lot of songs and save playlists and listen a lot of music when I'm home or in the car or train or traveling. And then on planes is where you have no other choice. That's where I do my playlist. And I like to, at home I listen a lot of stuff and new bands, because more or less, without sounding pretentious, the songs that I play for the old times, I've got them already in CDs or like labeled to whenever I check the vinyls. They're more or less the songs that I normally play, but it's more the new music so many that I like to be more or less up to date. So that's the music that I do more on playlist and all songs.
Who draws you? Which artist calls to you? In which mood as well? Which mood?
Yeah, well, that's what I was about to say. It depends which mood you are. Sometimes you hyper, you get Motown, soul. Sometimes you feel like blues and a bit of a more like moody music. For me, it all started. I'm more of a USA music fan than UK. That's where I started listening to music. The Doors, Lou Reed, At the Ground. That's why I started, and from there, Sonic Youth. I think all started there. All with Velvet. I think Velvet branches spread wide and very long. And sometimes I listen to new bands and always thinking, well, that's nothing new. There's something that I've already heard,
and usually not as well as Lou did.
Well, no, I think Lou. We spoke earlier about Cruyff. I think Lou Reed changed the direction of music.
This is just completely nuts. We've never rehearsed this. I wrote an ESPN column when Lou Reed died.
Yeah,
I said we've lost the Cruyff of music. The guy who risks, who goes against the tide, who scares people, who does things that you haven't imagined. And to me, and I didn't feel stupid and alone. But when you write and you're passionate, you have to take risks.
Of course, yeah.
And I kind of thought to myself, if one person out there gets this, then it was worth writing. And I've got a really good editor. Hi, James, at ESPN, who's a massive music fan. And I love that. I mean, nobody would say Lou Reed was in any way a perfect man.
No.
He had his... but nor am I, you know.
No one else. But he did take those risks and push the boundaries to new things.
And you listen to it today.
Oh, I do listen to it.
And it could have been written... You know, it could have been written. It doesn't sound 40 years old.
Well, not just the music. I think the lyrics. To get bands nowadays that have lyrics like they did back in the days, probably, no, I'm sure, because they had a lot more to say than we do nowadays. I think nowadays, in terms of society, there's not many things we could argue or talk about. In those days, there were strong things going on worldwide, and I think that's why this poetry. That's why they've done books about it. Jim Morrison, not as good as him, but all these things is timeless. You could listen over and over, like you say. Now, in 20 years, it still be. And I think I know that doesn't happen in England because the music culture is massive, it's huge, and everyone or most people know where everything comes from. Like if you like a band nowadays, you know it sounds like the Ramones or it sounds like any other. Maybe in other places. They only focus on the new things. They don't. Some people don't track back where the things come from, and they having a big miss because they're as good, if not better, than the bands nowadays.
Well, I loved what you said when the Velvets, the strands lead you, and that's the path I like going down. When you say, okay, who produced that? What else did they produce?
Yeah.
Who co-wrote? And I mean, now I'm talking because my knowledge isn't as good as yours, and I just follow my passion. But when I found out, I think. John Lennon sang in sessions with Bowie, maybe on Young Americans or Golden Years. I think to myself, the guy from the band that probably inspired me most when I was a kid is in that studio, just doing backing vocals, or McCartney and Lennon dropped by to sing backing vocals for Rainbow in the Stones or something. You're like, what I would give. You know, if you were given the gift of time travel, you should probably go back and, I don't know, avoid war, invent medicine earlier. And, you know, I'd go to those...
Go to concerts.
Straight to those sessions and just sit there going, oh. It's pathetic, but I
was
would.
lucky to get to meet Lou Reed once.
No.
Yeah, when they played in Valencia one summer. And a friend of mine used to do the website for him in Spain. And it was the president of the Lou Reed fans. So when he came... Obviously, he invited him. He was very good in that way. So he tell us, well, we were three. Come with me after the concert. We might be lucky and get to know him. We were like on the clock, waiting in the door.
I'm there.
Yeah, I'm there. So, come in. We come in. It was like a big terrace between the caravans, tables, and all of a sudden, Louis comes out. Shorts, like a hippish t-shirt, like, you know, nothing was bothering him. Glass of wine. And we start to talk music. He's a big fan of all the soul and all that time when he started to work in the music. Sport, he was a big fan of Tai Chi. Obviously, what you play? You soccer? Oh, soccer. Oh, that's too physical.
Really?
Yeah, he was like, he knew about football.
Yeah.
But no, a big fan. His musician, which was based in Barcelona, Fernando Saunders, he was a big fan. His son was a big fan of Barca. So the guy knew a little bit more. But it was a great, like I guess for most of us, when you are with someone that you admire for so many things, and talking like he knew you forever, like you were friends, you know, like normally we talk to anyone.
It's ironic I say this because, you know, the advice is be careful not to try to meet your heroes because, you know, I a lot of days when we all get in different moods and you don't want to do this. So the generosity of you doing it for me, I appreciate, but you can meet people who are particularly world famous and they don't have the time or the patience. And you did meet him and it was a good experience.
It was great.
I think that's kind of rare and I'm even more jealous.
Well, don't start me with that.
I'm going to thank you for our beautiful time, Gaizka. Thank you.
My pleasure.
My first big acierto was asking you to do this. My great fortune was that you said yes. You made me very, very happy as a journalist and as a fan of football, and you've done it again today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Football, music, good friends.
We're only missing two
We're
things.
missing,
We can't
I was gonna
mention
say.
either. Hi, Mum. We can't mention it either. What are they? I always thought it was socks and drugs and rock and roll.
That's old school.
Okay. Gaizka Mendieta. Amunt Mendieta.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Gracias.
So there you go. Gaizka Mendieta, as I promised, a brilliant storyteller, phenomenal fella, and he loves music just as much as I do. It doesn't come much better than that. It was all recorded at Audio Boom's studios, thanks to them, and particularly to Alex Adey, who didn't just edit this and make sure that it's good to listen to in terms of the quality of the sound, but she guided me through that experience absolutely brilliantly. A gentle, you hear the surprise in my voice, a gentle thank you to Mr. Russell Brand, who phoned up to say how much he's enjoying the big interviews immediately before Gaizka arrived at the studios in London at Audio Boom, and put me in a great mood to enjoy this conversation. So I appreciate that, Russell. That was kind of you. I'd also like to thank other people. I hope you've enjoyed listening to Gaizka, but this is part of a series which was made possible by all of you supporting us. And there are shout-outs from people who dug into their pocket to support the big interview, to make sure that we could live on, to make sure that the Kickstarter campaign was a success. And therefore, Lawrence McRae, you're a star. This is your shout-out. Mike Reid, I'm not sure which one. We know it's not Runaround. I'm sorry for that humour. Pretty sure it's not the X-Radio 1 DJ. So Mike Reid, Mike, you're the finest Mike Reid I know. Thanks for supporting us. And the last shout-out goes to Dara. Now, I have a suspicion which Dara it is, but Dara, I don't think you gave us your surname. So I suppose to you, Dara, amongst all Daras, this is your shout-out, and thanks for being there. We wouldn't still be doing this without all of you who were so kind and so generous. We appreciate the feedback from you all. Please keep it coming. Join the mailing list at grahamhunter.tv. It's completely free. And by doing that, you'll get first news of who the next podcast is. You'll get blog content. You'll always know what it is that we're up to, and we'll try to make sure that you enjoy being part of the network on grahamhunter.tv. It's also where you can buy my books on FC Barcelona and the Spain Trophy treble. This whole process is produced by Backpage and by me, Graham Hunter. The music, as always, is by Beer Jacket, and we thank them. Alex Adey, brilliant editor. And finally, if you're one of the 1,184 people who backed our Kickstarter campaign, genuinely we appreciate it. If you're not, but you do want to contribute to the ongoing good health of this podcast, please take a minute to put a review on iTunes or wherever you listen to this. Tell your friends. Tell them to come and join the party. Talk to you again soon. Bye for now.